All right, y'all, I got a few unpopular, maybe controversial topics to talk about considering the bush pig. And really, that's just exaggerating. But there are a few things that I have come to realize after owning this motorcycle for a little over a year and driving it for about 7,000 miles. Some topics of conversation that come up are the stock tires, the Bridgestone Trailwings, the stock handlebars, the stock risers and height of the bars, the stock foot peg mounts, and the seat and the stock tune. So my opinion on those things may differ from someone else's, and you also got to take into account the variables that are involved, what kind of riding someone does, their height, etc., etc. So what might work good for one person might not work good for another. So trying not to make this video too long, I'll start with something a little simpler. The stock foot peg mounts. I did get some new foot pegs, something a little bigger than the stock foot peg, which I do like because it locks me in better with the brake pedal and definitely the shifter. But these for me are good. The reason I like these is because it puts me in kind of an attack position, and also when I'm cornering and riding off-road, I'm way less likely to drag the ground and have some sort of an injury. Now, if I was doing more than 50 mile per day commuting and light, hard pack gravel roads trail riding, maybe I would change the height. But for me right now, I think that they're fine. I think that is just preference depending on what kind of riding and what height you are, which is pretty obvious, but I have kept the stock height there. The next thing I'll go with is the seat. The seat is definitely hard, and if you're doing some long days and if you're doing round the world, obviously you're going to want to go with a different seat. For me right now, I am going to go with a different seat, but I am going to make good use of this one. I commute 50 miles per day, and it's just at the point where I can make do with this. But when I do long days of riding, like full days of riding, by the end of the day I would lie if I said that this was comfortable for me, because yeah, I'm moving kind of back and forth on the seat to kind of find a position that's not so painful. So yeah, it is true that seat is hard, but I think when you go more in depth, you have to ask yourself, what kind of riding are you doing, like as goes for all these things I'm talking about. Now, the next thing I will talk about is the bars. So the stock bars, they are, what I learned from another fellow DR owner here actually today, is that these bars are made weak so that when they fall, they take the full hit, the bend, so that nothing else gets tweaked, which makes a lot of sense. So I can respect that, and just in case nobody knew, that's the reason why. So that's pretty cool to learn. Now, another thing that I didn't mention yet is the grips. A lot of people change the grips, and I actually like these. If you are riding correctly and you are throttling like this, you lock in pretty good on these. Now, I'm not going to say they aren't going to get uncomfortable, but they are pretty purposeful. So anyways, that's that. Won't go too far in depth with that. Eventually I may change the bars, but I want to see how far I can go with these. I have 7,000 miles, so I guess we'll go from there. Okay, so right now I have a Shinko SR 244 on the front, and I have a D Sport on the rear. Now, these tires are both good if you're doing more off-roading and not really being on the road too much. I did intend to do more off-road riding, but the reality is that I commute on this daily and I'm mostly on the road. So I'm gonna say that those Trailwings were awesome on the road. Now, a lot of people talk about how terrible they are off-road, but nobody really talks about how great they are on-road. And they are really awesome. They do great in the rain. They get good traction. If you're trying to pop a wheelie, they really grip and go. Like if you try to pop a wheelie or lift the front wheel on the pavement with this D Sport, it will spin. It feels buttery. So, I'm a novice. So, I don't know all the terms and I don't know all these things. I will admit that. But I will say, after my experience with these tires on road, the Bridgestones are quiet. They get good traction. You can ride this bike top speed and it's just riding smooth. and they have a long life. I actually got about 5,000 on my rear and could have went more, and I got 6.2 thousand on my front, could have went more. So I would say that's a 5,500 mile tire, and that's a 7,000 mile tire as far as the Bridgestone Trailwings. And honestly, I rode them off road and did like gravel roads and like hard pack, and I never had an issue with them. Yeah, they were a little squirrely, but that kind of comes to your skill level, which, like I said, I'm a novice, so I'm definitely gonna admit that they're not gonna be good in mud. I mean, from my assumption, because I never rode them in mud. I don't do much mud riding on the DR, at least. I do more of that kind of stuff on my XR, just because I'm not really trying to do that on my DR right now. But anyways, the Bridgestone Trailwings are awesome on road. So even though they might not be the best in some like round the world stuff, or some of the intense off-road riding that you're going through mud and you're doing hill climbs and things like that, if you're just kind of doing like me and you're doing 50-50 on-road commuting and you're doing gravel roads and you're doing forestry roads, the Trailwings are fine. You know, and yeah, I understand you want something a little more aggressive, but if you're doing like 70% on-road or more, I think the Trailwings are like awesome. Like, they really are. I'm willing, if you're in the state of Georgia, I'm willing to buy your Trailwings. I will come to you to buy them. Let me know. But anyways, moving on. So that covers the Trailwings, the bars, the pegs. Okay, the risers. I tried some 2-inch risers, and they honestly pulled all the wires and electrical and everything pretty tight, and they actually have a lot of play, and the bars bend, and it just didn't feel solid, and I didn't like them, and I took them off. So that's, you know, I think if you're like, say 6 foot and taller, it makes sense to lower the pegs and raise the bars possibly. But you kind of got to think of all these different things at one time, like long term, what are you going to have? Because when you change one thing, another thing changes, everything changes. So you kind of got to want to know what your goal is, so you can kind of know, like, okay, if you end up changing the peg height and the bar height, and then you get a different seat and the seat's actually taller, now these are, and so, you know, I won't go too far in depth with that, but you know, if you give a mouse a cookie, you got to give them milk. If you give them milk, you got to give them a straw. So that's fun, but like on my daily commuter, I don't have time to do all those things. But anyways, what else here? Okay, the stock tune. The stock tune, I think, is awesome. It's great for reliability. Okay, it's great for reliability, and gas mileage is good, and it cranks up every time. It doesn't surge. I mean, there are little times where you can feel it, how can I say it, not hesitate, not bog. Anyways, it does come lean from the factory, but I will say I'm happy with the stock tune. I don't have to worry about trying to take at least right now, taking the carb on and off, tuning it. But I do know that these things tuned with different jetting and the intake modified and the exhaust, you can get a lot more power. But the thing is, I'm pretty satisfied with what I got right now, because I really don't want to spend so much time working on the bike, because then you have to not only do all that, on top of that, you're having to do maintenance, you're having to do the oil changes and the valve checks and the this and the that, and you know, sometimes you got to take your skid plate off to clean up underneath there, or, you know, whatever it may be. So that may be in the future, but I do think the stock tune is pretty awesome. And you know, I'm not gonna say this bike, it just has a lot of torque even with the stock tune, so I'm totally happy with it. And there's probably a lot of things I didn't mention in this video, but I just wanted to say, when you buy this bike, ride it for about a year and do nothing to it. Just like do nothing to it, ride it completely stock. Now I will say, go ahead and add a skid plate. These are soft, so maybe get you some case covers, okay, and get you a skid plate, and maybe get you some frame guards, because you'll be rubbing those. But definitely a skid plate, at bare minimum a skid plate. Now the stock handguards, what I like about the stock handguards is that they leave you more room up here. You don't have all this space taken up on the bars because, you know, of this. Now these are definitely going to be more solid for off-road, but the stock ones will do fine for a little while. The lighting, I still have the stock lighting, so I can't from experience tell you the difference of the lighting. I do plan to do that. Now the stock mirrors, I have these aftermarket mirrors, which I am going to do a video about the current state of my build and kind of the process of all that, because it's been a while since I made a video like that. But anyways, these mirrors, they're decent. They were 30 bucks, they're knockoff, but the problem is the visibility is good, but they vibrate some. So those stock mirrors, I mean, here we go again, the stock mirrors are awesome. You might have to get some extenders like I did with them to see, but they don't vibrate. They really did do a good job with this bike, and I just wanted to basically make this video to let you know, hey, if you buy a stock DR650, don't be in a rush to do anything except for maybe get a little protection, maybe some bags if you need to carry some stuff, because I'll tell you, a lot of the stuff it doesn't absolutely need if you're riding it how this bike was intended to be used. So there's a lot of other things I can say. I don't want to make this video too long, and I will be making a video soon of the current state of my build and what kind of direction I'm going with it. But like I mentioned before, this is basically my commuter bike. I get back and forth to work on it, so it needs to be reliable. I have young children, so I don't have time to be working on it all the time. I do enjoy doing stuff to it, but you know, when you get involved in tuning this bike, it is going to take you some time to perfect it, which if I had a secondary DR, I would love to do it. I absolutely would. But if this is your first bike, you're a novice, you don't know much about this stuff, you're trying to figure it out. The stock tune, to me, yes, it is lean. It creates some heat. You can always take the pair valve off to kind of reduce on that. And the Trailwings might not be the best off-road, but man, I really appreciate this bike. I really do, and I totally understand where everyone is coming from when they talk about how the Trailwings are bad, but I think it would be good to kind of go more in depth of how good they are on the road. And most people do mention that, you know, hey, if you're 5'10" and under or 5'9" and under, you really don't need to lower the pegs and higher the bars, but you just start changing the geometry of everything. And you got to remember that there is a team of people that research and development that developed this bike, and so they really knew what they were doing. And yes, I get it, they cheaped out on some things and this, that, the other, but there's a lot that goes into this that we don't necessarily know. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Okay, yeah, the stock tank. Yes, the stock tank is metal. Yes, it can be dented. Yes, it doesn't have a high capacity. But when you get that bigger tank, you're gonna have, your legs are gonna be out more. It might offer more protection, but it's gonna feel heavier. So if you're new to dual sports, you wanna wait on that, because you wanna kind of get used to the bike when it's more in a nimble stage. So yeah, I'd like to go more in depth than this, but I'll go ahead and end this video, and do know that I am going to make a video of my current build and kind of go more in depth on some certain things. But I really appreciate y'all watching. Give me y'all's feedback. Tell me what y'all think. And I just want to say, God bless you all. Ride safe. Have fun. And stay hydrated. Stay cool this summer. All right, y'all. Peace.